If you're serious, not just curious, about building a business that gives you financial freedom, you need to hear what I'm about to say. I got that phrase from Myron Golden. He's one of dozens of multi-millionaire business experts that I've spent thousands of hours studying, not just to soak up the information for myself, but so that I could test these ideas in real time, document what works and what doesn't, and bring you along with me. Because let's be honest, some of the most valuable ideas, the ones that turn people into multi-millionaires, get shared at levels way above where most of us are starting. Right off the bat, the most important place that we can start is that there are only two types of businesses worth building. One is a lifestyle business and one is a performance business. A lifestyle business prioritizes the 3 F's of freedom, flexibility, and fun. You work when and where you want, doing work that you actually enjoy. This type of business needs to generate anywhere between $250K per year to $5 million per year. I'll tell you where we get those numbers in a second. A performance business, on the other hand, is built to sell. And in order to do that, it needs to generate about $6 million per year so that it can sell for upwards of $10 million. Okay, so why these numbers? The average American household makes about $110K per year between 2 salaries. We can call it a $60K salary and a $50K. And that's typically done through a traditional job. Being an entrepreneur, on the other hand, it's not worth it if you are just going to end up making the same amount that you would in a traditional job. You're gonna work way harder for way longer hours and have higher risk and higher expenses when you do this on your own. So to make it worth it, you need to make at least 2.5 times more than you would in a traditional job. So that's why we say that a lifestyle business needs to generate at least this $250K per year to really give you that freedom, fun, and flexibility that you're looking for. But this is a wide range, and we should all narrow that down a bit so we know the exact financial freedom number that we're aiming for. My financially free life may not look like your financially free life, may not look like somebody else's financially free life. So in order to figure out your financial freedom number, I made a calculator that's linked in the top comment where you can put in the exact type of house you want to live in, car you want to drive, how often you want to travel, all of those types of things, and get out the financial freedom number that you should be aiming for. Again, that's if you want to pursue a lifestyle business, which is the type of business that I'm trying to pursue. Because the next level up is not about building a business that's just valuable to your life, but valuable enough to the world to sell. And that gets really, really hard because you really do have to get to that $6 million per year mark before someone is even going to think about selling your business. So that's why I choose to pursue a lifestyle business, and that's what I'll talk about in the rest of this video. And as a quick note, a lifestyle business is going to have a team around you of about 6 to 12 people, with 8 people being in the sweet spot. A performance business, you would have about 30 employees on the team. But here's where most people mess up. They ask, do I have a skill that could make at least $250,000 a year? But that's the wrong question. You get paid for the value of the problem that you solve. A bottle of water in a desert is worth way more than at home. A locksmith at 2 a.m. charges far more than if you were locked out at 2 p.m. And you would expect a plane ticket on Christmas Eve to be way more expensive than the normal price. So don't ask, what can I do? Ask, what do others need? I learned this the hard way with my YouTube agency. At first, I thought we were selling video editing for YouTube, but the value is not in the edits. Now I know that the value comes from solving the problem of a business owner who doesn't know how to grow on YouTube and doesn't have the time or team to produce the content. That's what makes my agency more valuable and therefore makes us more money. So how do you know the value of the problem that you're solving? It all depends on the market that you're in. Myron Golden defines this really well by saying that there are 3 types of markets. There's the commodity market. This is where you're selling something where pretty much all of the options are going to solve the problem in the same way. I will go to Lowe's looking for wood nails. All of my options are going to nail into wood. The only way that the buyer decides what to go with is price and a tiny bit of brand loyalty. I'm going to look for basically the cheapest nail. I'm definitely not looking at the most expensive. And if there's a type of nail that my dad used, but it's like the second cheapest, I might still go with that. And it's not that something is a commodity because it solves a small problem. It's a commodity because the problem has been solved so much and so well that the only way the businesses behind that commodity can compete is by lowering their prices. This is a horrible place to put yourself in, not only because you have to have a low price, but because at the beginning of your journey, you'll likely also be selling low volume. You probably don't own Lowe's, and so you don't have a ton of people already going out looking for your thing that you're gonna solve. So this is a recipe for going out of business before you really even get going. Just stay out of the commodity market. The second market is the mass market. And this is where you're solving a problem with a little more differentiation from your competitors than you had in the commodity market. Think about your neighborhood grocery store versus a Whole Foods. They're solving the same problem of getting people the food they need, but instead of just setting prices based on the cost of the food, Whole Foods has an extra markup because they've created the value of getting organic options and eliminating things like harmful dyes and chemicals. But at the end of the day, there's only so much higher that Whole Foods can take their prices. If they go too high, people will just go to the neighborhood store. So Whole Foods is still anchored down to have relatively low prices. General grocery stores on average have about a 2% margin, meaning they make just 2 cents on every dollar that they bring in. Whole Foods will be lucky to push that to 4%. So in the mass market, prices are still low, maybe not as low as the commodity market, but because this is a mass market, there's a massive amount of people who have this problem. And so you're gonna have a higher volume to be able to sell to. So it's a little bit better than the commodity market, and you can make this work, but it's really hard for absolute beginners. You would need to either have a lot of money to invest in paid ads and outreach up front to solve that volume problem, or if you have a large audience, that's where your volume would come from. But again, it's hard. For example, I used to sell a $7 product, and I have a pretty large audience, so I was able to sell almost 3,000 of them and make about $20,000. If that doesn't completely add up, there's probably some refunds or something in there. But again, at the minimum, for a lifestyle business, we're aiming for $250,000 per year. So while $20,000 is great, it doesn't get us even close to that. I also sold a $597 product, and while I only sold 202 of them, because it's more expensive, I made $117,000. That's almost 6 times more revenue with 10 times fewer customers. And this is why it's so hard to play the low price game, even if you have high volume. That $117,000 still only gets me halfway to what I need for a lifestyle business. And it took me years and years to build up the audience to make this type of money anyway. That's why we have to move on to a different market that's going to let us play an entirely different game, and that's the premium value market. This is where price is driven by the perceived value of the problem you're solving. The bigger the problem, the more people you're dealing with who care more about solving that problem than the price tag that comes along with it. And this is where you want to be if you want to have a real lifestyle business. Because once you start having a higher price, even with low volume, that can still create financial freedom. Let's say you make $5,000 per sale of your product or service. With 5 sales, you'd make $25K per month or $300K per year. And if you made 25 sales per month, that's $125K or $1.5 million per year. Now compare that to selling something for just $500. In order to have that same $25,000 per month, instead of 5 sales, you would need 50. And to hit $1.5 million per year, 3,000 sales. And let me tell you, it is a lot easier to find 5 people willing to pay $5,000 than it is to find 3,000 people willing to pay $500. And the reason I believe having a personal brand attached to your business is so powerful is because it allows you to not just play this game with the high price, but also with high volume. Instead of the 25 sales per month that we had here, imagine 100 sales per month because of our personal brand. That's gonna make us $500K per month or $6 million per year. And at the end of the day, $5,000 isn't even really that premium of a product or service. Some of the multi-millionaires that I'm studying have $50,000 to $150,000 offers. And this part is critical. Even if it makes you uncomfortable or it seems even unfathomable for you to ever charge that much, you have to start with high price. At minimum, $2,500 per sale. Because it's far easier to start in this premium value market and go from a low to a high volume, because you're gonna learn how to sell something at a high price and deliver it at a high price. And you don't need a ton of success at the beginning to make a significant amount of money. You'll get better and better at it, and then you just increase the volume that you sell, either through reinvesting in things like ads and outreach or by building your personal brand. If you try to start down here with low price and then figure out how to switch to selling something that's a higher price, you're gonna have to sell something completely new to a completely different person. So you won't be mastering the skills and building the business that's actually going to generate you freedom. And when each of the sales that you do make is more valuable because it's a higher price, this is the path that helps you build a lifestyle business. And you don't need to master every business book ever written. You just need to understand what market you're in and what model you're building. And once you do that, you can start making money that matches the life you actually want to live. If you made it this far, you're the exact type of person I would love to help inside of that self-funded freedom challenge. You can sign up using using the link in the top comment. And after you sign up, go back to that top comment where you'll see a link to watch this video, which breaks down the exact business ideas that I would pursue within these markets and models if I had to start over from scratch and wanted to make my first $10,000 per month really fast.